Hello dear students, I am Dr. Garima Srivastava from Lal Bahadur Shastri College, Lucknow. We have discussed about cultural diversity and its effect on the business organization in the part 1. Now, during this session, sensitivity to the cultural diversity part 2, we are going to study about cultural diversity factors and how an organization can adapt to challenges of cultural diversity and become a culturally competent organization. First of all, we need to understand what is cultural diversity. Cultural diversity is the existence of a variety of cultures in a group within a society. So, moving along to the host country, when an organization expands, it always faces different types of culture in that particular host country, which consists of various people, involving various kind of cultures, religions, age, gender, class. They belong to various other classes of the society. So, people from various societies, so many of the differences, they are composing your customers, they are composing your employees. So, understanding their cultural difference becomes important for the organization. So, this cultural difference is related to cultural diversity, is known as the cultural diversity which is there in the organization. So, it consists of religion, ethnicity, it consists of languages, different languages that are spoken in the host country, the nationality, the sexual orientation of that country, the classes that are there in that host country, then different genders, the age groups, the age differences, the disability, how disabled people are handled in that country, the health differences that are there between the different people in the country, then when they share different geographical locations in that country. All these factors are related to cultural diversity. Organizations have a culture of policies, procedure, programs and processes. So, like we are talking about a society which consists of so many of people who belong to various classes, various religions. Similarly, cultural diversity within the organization, it is related to different kinds of policies, procedures, programs and processes that are applied within the organization. It also involves the certain values, beliefs, assumptions, customs and other factors that are related to organization culture. So, when we talk about cultural diversity within the organization, two kinds of factors come into play. One is the cultural factor, that is through the people whom we are going to hire, who are from different say religion, different geographical locations. Similarly, secondly, when these people are hired for the organization, they are going to face various policies, procedures, programs of the organization itself, which is another kind of culture. So, these two cultures come across each other. The people have to cope up with various policies that are implemented by the organization. Similarly, organization has to strategize those policies in such a way that people adapt to these cultural changes in a easy manner. Organization culture largely echoes mainstream culture in its sense of time orientation, perception and use of time. So, when we talk about culture in the organization, it is mostly time oriented. That means culture keeps on changing. It is a very dynamic process. So, it is important to look into the fact that when is this kind of culture changing, or what are the changing factors, what is the perception of the organization, how it is going to change itself from existing organization to the organization that is being expected. A very good example we can take up over here is during this pandemic where coronavirus is there, most of the organization are moving towards online culture. So, now moving towards online culture, taking up various strategies to do the work from home is not easy for each and every organization, because organization deal with different natures of work which may require online jobs or which may also require offline working. So, making a mix of that is strategizing them and preparing a proper compensation package for the people is a very great challenge. So, if the organization are not able to cope up with this pandemic and they are not able to change the different policies that they are following, mostly what will happen that either they will be out of the market with their products, or they will be less feasible for the people to join. The people will not be willing to join such kind of organizations who are not relying themselves or who are not converting themselves towards online orientation. So, over here cultural diversity is important. Now, cultural sensitivity. Sensitivity means you are trying to understand the culture, you are trying to present your view towards the culture, and you are trying to embrace the culture. That means you are not against that culture, you are embracing it, and you are taking up various values, beliefs, and in the light of those values and beliefs, the formulation of various policies and procedures of the organization is done. So, if this integration of cultural change with the policies and programs is done within the organization, it becomes important, it becomes easy for the organization and the people to cope up with the changed culture. So, cultural sensitivity is important because it allows us to effectively function in other culture, to respect the and value the other culture and reduce cultural barriers between professional and their clients. So, sensitivity will help the organization to further cope up with the challenges, further give values to the other cultures that are prevailing in the host country. It is a way to give respect to the people in professional manner as well as the personal manner. So, with this the organization will be able to develop good relations with clients, with customers, with all the stakeholders or any kind of the outsiders of the organization. An organization culture may always focus on skill building to make itself culturally competent. So, now when moving from culturally challenged organization towards culturally competent organization, cultural sensitivity plays a lot of part. So, now over here it becomes important for human resource management that they understand, they try to recognize what are the various changes of the culture, give respect to these changes of the culture, and then try to adapt themselves in the organization so that it becomes culturally competent. So, a culturally competent organization brings together all the knowledge about different groups of people and transform it into standard policies, practices that make everything work. Now, that means you are trying to understand the changes, the differences of the culture that all the people, that different people in the organization are following, and transforming in such a way that the policies and practices that are taken up are focusing towards working of everything and nothing is restricted due to this cultural change. So, you are keeping in mind the changes, you are bringing about change trainings, giving change trainings to the people, making them aware about the different changed culture and how this changed culture is going to affect their organization in a positive and negative manner. So, making them aware about this aspect, you will be able to transform the mindsets of the people, the perception of the people towards the organization. And once human resource development department is able to change this perception of the people, it will be able to cope up with the changed culture of this host country in a very easy manner through implementation of properly strategized policies and practices within the organization. So, when we talk about cultural sensitivity, it has following 4 levels, or you can say it has following 4 concepts. The very first is cultural knowledge. Now, when we talk about cultural challenge, it is important to understand, it is important to gather all knowledge, all information about the culture that we are going to face or that we are going to live in. So, of course, whenever we are moving for the international assignment, we have an eager side of the mind which tries to find out various information, various changed culture that the person is going to face. So, this means the person himself who is going to be an expat as well as the organization will give him information about the changed culture in the host country. So, culture knowledge means that you know about cultural characteristics, you all know about the history of the culture that you are going to face, the values, beliefs and behaviors of another ethnic and cultural group. That means, when you are in another country, the culture altogether changes because it belongs to different ethnic groups in that particular country. So, you need to gather each and every piece of information related to this cultural group. Then comes cultural awareness. Once you have gathered all the knowledge about the different culture or the cultural group that you are going to face in the host country, awareness means you are trying to understand the other groups. That means just by gathering the knowledge will not do, you will be making yourself aware to this particular culture. That means you are open to idea of changing the cultural attitude, that you will be changing yourself, your mindset, your perception towards that culture, as well as you will try to bring about certain changes which are important, which will be necessary to be brought about in that particular culture also. Though bringing about changes in a culture is a very tough task, very complex task for the organization and the people of the organization. So, over there what happens, mostly what organizations do, they become flexible for the culture, the people become flexible for the people of other culture, and they try to adapt such policies which are flexible for the people of that country. So, that means you are not trying to change the culture of the other country, you are trying to take up challenges of those culture, you are trying to make yourself more flexible, to be more adaptable and perceptible to this culture. So, this is called awareness. Now, this will only come when you will be presenting a behavior in such a way that you are understanding them, you are bringing about changes in yourself to understand the culture of that particular country. The third is cultural sensitivity. It is knowing that the difference exists between cultures, but not assigning values to the differences. That means we all know that there are differences between the two cultures that we are having in the home and the host country. Now, just by knowing doesn't mean that we are sensitive towards culture. If we put up values that yes, this culture is good, this culture is bad, or this is adaptable, this cannot be adapted, this is flexible, this is rigid. These are the different values that we are attaching to the culture. So, attaching these values will furthermore create more complex processes for you. So, being sensitive means you are adapting culture, you are understanding culture, making yourself aware about the culture in a normal manner and not putting any kind of values to this particular differences of the culture. That means you are taking up these cultural differences as they are. So, internal conflicts like intrapersonal, interpersonal and organizational conflicts can arise if we put up values with this cultural differences, because it is not always that every person who come across you or every employee who come across you is agreeable with your opinion or with your thoughts. So, we have people with different opinions, we have people with different thoughts. So, it is important to give values, to give respect, to give values to their thought also, and not just by assigning our own values to their thoughts. So, give respect to the thoughts and values of the other people in the organization also. So, last one is cultural competence. So, all these three aspects will ultimately lead to competitiveness, will lead to lead you to be a very competent person who will be able to handle cultural difference in the organization through cultural sensitivity. It brings together the previous stages and adds to operational effectiveness. So, when we are moving towards cultural competent organization, more and more effectiveness in putting up various policies and procedures will be observed. A culturally competent organization has a capacity to bring into its system many different behaviors, attitudes, policies and work effectively. So, the basic focus of a competent organization is to bring about all these changed behaviors, different behaviors, attitudes, policies of the organization effectively at the same platform, integrating them with the values of the organization as well as the values of the people across the organization. So, all this will involve a lot of psychological work also for the human resource department. Then only through understanding of various cultures and presenting sensitivity towards these culture we will be able to prepare a more culturally competent organization. Now, what is cultural competence? It is non-threatening because it acknowledges and validates who people are. Competent organizations, what they do, they also consider the cultural part as an important aspect when we talk about host country, because culture is an important aspect when we move to the host country. So, over here what MNCs do, they specifically focus, they acknowledge, they give value to the changed culture that the people are going going to face in the other country. So, culturally competent organization, what they do, they focus on how to of aligning of various policies and practices with goals. Everyone is involved in the process. So, a very big question that how we are going to prepare a competent organization who will be able to cope up with this cultural change in the host country. So, it involves aligning of all the policies and procedures in a way that it will integrate the organizational goals as well as the goals of the people who are there in the organization. So, integrating their goals will somehow help the organization to cope up with the changed culture and present itself as a competent organization to face the culture. It is an inside out model, relieves the outsiders or excludes the group from the responsibility of doing all the adapting. Inside out model means a great amount of change, a great quantity of change will be brought within inside of the people, which is consisting of personality, perception, the attitudes of the people. So, that means these are the softer part, you can say they are the intangible factors of an employee, and these will be brought out while understanding of various culture. They cannot be done through your skills, that cannot be done through your education, though education will take part, but a change in your own attitude, change in your own perception will bring about a change within yourself, through which you will be able to give values to the people, values to the thoughts and opinions of the people whom you meet. And just by giving values to the various cultural difference to the of the people will give respect to them, and they will feel that they are more belonging to the organization rather than left out in the organization. We have to value diversity. Now, this difference will always exist when we talk about home and the host country. So, as an organization should value the diversity, should put up diversity among the people as a major aspect, and should take into very proper care that these diversity, these differences are handled with sensitivity. Valuing diversity means accepting and respecting differences between and within the culture. So, of course, we have talked about cultural knowledge, cultural awareness. So, this will give an information to the people that what are the basic differences of different people coming from different cultures, following various values, beliefs, norms, and then again accepting and respecting those values, beliefs of different people within the organization. Now, accepting is not that easy for each and every level in the organization, level of people in the organization. So, valuing diversity will present new areas and mix of other cultures. That means, two or three types of cultures, 2 or 3 type of background of people, different opinions of people, they can be brought together with certain agreements, they can be brought together with integrated goals and strategizing various policies and procedures on them. So, it is like it creates a kaleidoscope of subcultures within a racial group. So, that means to understand the difference of culture, to understand the various factors that involve the culture, we need to specifically study the subcultures of the people, the different subcultures which may include gender, locale, socioeconomic status, all these factors and other factors also. So, subcultural parts will also be taken care of. For example, a Vietnamese couple may migrate to America and raise to their children in a suburban area. As a result, what will happen? The children may identify much more with European American popular culture than the Vietnamese culture of their parents. So, if they are living in this culture, they will be more used to this culture and they will adapt this culture with time, because say suppose if they live there for 5 or 6 years, mostly they will adapt to European American culture only. Conducting cultural self-assessment. Now, for awareness of cultural difference, organization can undergo itself through self-assessment of culture. So, for this, each organization has a culture. It can take the help of various surveys, discussions which help the members to become more aware of organization's way of doing things and can help it adjust to other cultures. So, cultural self-assessment of organization, it will help the organization in giving information about the culture that the organization is going to follow and how people will adapt themselves to different policies and procedures that the organization is going to do. So, organization will make them aware that the ways they are going to do the work, the ways they are going to perform, and the people will have to change themselves, make themselves flexible according to the ways of doing things by the organization. This assessment is a continuing process towards cultural competence. Now, through this process, by making people aware through these discussions that what is the style of working of the organization, how are various functions performed in the organization, when you make them aware of this, the people try to understand them, they try to bring about changes, flexible changes within their opinions and thoughts, and try to accomplish tasks that are given to them in the organization. So, this is always a continuous process, because it may happen that the first time once you have performed the function, some of the wear and tear was there, then again when this same function will be performed the second time, and alongside you are again giving training to the people, giving feedback to the people, the rectifications can be done on the part of their perceptions and attitudes, and they can come up more effectively the second time this function will be run. For example, being punctual in the office. So, if you want people to be punctual in the office, you can take up various measures, you can put up notices that the timings is this, the latest time that you can enter in the organization is this, then again you can give personal feedback, you can give guidance, you can put up circulars, notice, you can take up many measures to bring about this policy changes in the organization. Understanding the dimensions, dynamics of the difference. Now, dynamics of difference means there is always a difference between the culture. The factors which are there due to which this difference is there, their understanding is important. So, understanding of various factors can affect cross cultural interactions. Bias due to historical cultural experience can explain some of the current attitudes of the people. So, why are people having different kinds of attitudes? This can be understood by various factors of the culture. Group in the organization may have experienced discrimination and unfair treatment for dominant cultures. Sometimes what happens, this is just an example where example of dynamics of differences, where various groups, various multinational groups of organization, over there the people feel that they are being discriminated, they are being treated unfairly in relation to transfers or promotions. Sometimes it happens because what happens, there are no clear policies of transfers or promotions within the organization. So, if you present more clear policies, you will be able to bring about more trust among the people, and they will feel that all the things are very transparent and they will work effectively for the achievement of the goals. Mistrusting comes out of these experiences. So, if they are very much uncertain, so there is a environment of mistrust in the people. An oppressed group may feel mistrust towards the dominant culture, but the members of dominant culture may not be aware of this. So, there should be awareness amongst both the type of people, like dominant people as well as the people who have to follow the instruction. All the things, all the information, sharing of information should be very clear, that none of them should feel mistrust, should feel conflict or a kind of dispute amongst themselves. Then you have to institutionalize cultural knowledge amongst the people. Cultural knowledge should be integrated into every facet of an organization. So, whenever you are strategizing policies, you have to see that cultural knowledge is embedded in each and every policy in the organization. Staff must be trained and able to effectively utilize knowledge gained. Then policies should be very responsive to cultural diversity. That means you have to strategize your policies, formulate your policies in such a way that they take up cultural differences as an important aspect of their changes. Programs material should reflect positive images of all the cultures. So, whatever programs, procedures you are taking up, it should reflect that there is a positive image of different cultures in the organization. Adapting to the diversity, through this the organizations will be able to adapt themselves to the diverse cultures of the different countries. Values, behaviors, attitudes, practices, policies, structures, and their knowledge will give cross cultural communication and will guide an organization to be culturally competent. Recognizing and respecting values of all cultures, attaching values to the cultural norms, values, beliefs, everything will integrate the organization system, and it will help them to build a culturally competent organization, which will meet the needs of diverse group within the organization. Benefits of a culturally competent organization. We have certain benefits. If we move towards cultural knowledge through cultural sensitivity, we will be able to develop a cultural competent organization. First of all, what happens, it increases respect and mutual understanding amongst the people who are involved. So, if it is a culturally competent organization, it will give an environment to the people within the organization, a kind of environment which is more of a trustworthy environment, a transparent and clear environment, where everything is known to every person who is there in the organization. Secondly, it increases creativity in problem solving through new perspective, ideas and strategies. We have people from various cultures, various nations. So, it will also encourage creativity, it will encourage proactivity from the part of those people if they feel themselves that they belong to the organization, the organization is trusting them, the organization is giving them a culture which is very much friendly to their own culture. Then it decreases unwanted surprises that may slow down the progress. So, unwanted surprises may be a kind of conflicts among the people, disputes among the people, then friction among the people, strikes, lockout that may come up from the sides of the employee, unwanted demands that may come up from the sides of the employee. So, understanding their cultural difference and sensitizing them at the proper time will help you decrease these unwanted surprises. It increases participation and involvement of other cultural groups, other people in the organization. It increases a lot of trust and cooperation between the people. It also helps overcome the fear of mistakes, competition or conflict within the organization. For example, by understanding and accepting many cultures, everyone is more likely to feel more comfortable in general and less likely to feel urged to look over their shoulders to be sure that they are being appropriate in major terms or not. So, there comes a level of confidence if culturally competent organization is there. Lastly, we can say it promotes inclusion of the people, become more included, become more belonging to the organization, and they feel that they are equal to all other people who are treated in the organization. Thank you so much.